I believe that his ceiling is Kobe Bryant, to be honest with you. AJ DeBouncer, he's going to have a Hall of Fame career. They had to go with AJ DeBouncer. His confidence and his fit. The Washington Wizards are going to make the playoffs next season.
3 years ago, the Washington Wizards made a decision every NBA fan dreads. They blew everything up. Bradley Beal was gone, the roster was stripped to its foundation, and the franchise embraced a full-scale rebuild. The results were exactly what you'd expect. Washington lost 67, 64, and 65 games over the next 3 seasons, becoming one of the league's worst teams and fading almost completely out of the national spotlight. For a while, it looked like another endless rebuild with no clear finish line. Then, almost overnight, everything changed. Instead of waiting years for relevance, the Wizards enter the 2026-27 season with one of the most dramatic turnarounds in basketball. A new era has arrived, headlined by Trae Young, Anthony Davis, and consensus #1 overall pick AJ DeBouncer. What once looked like the NBA's most hopeless franchise now is one of its most exciting young futures. And if this new core develops the way Washington believes it will, the rest of the league may have seriously underestimated just how quickly the Wizards rebuilt themselves into a team nobody wants to face.
The switch from Powell. Drives on Powell! Oh! Air AJ takes off!
12 months ago, the Washington Wizards were selling nothing but hope, no wins, no expectations, just the idea that enduring the losses would eventually lead somewhere better. But now the conversation has completely shifted. This is no longer a team defined by patience, but by pressure and rising expectations, where the question isn't about rebuilding anymore, but about whether the pieces actually work together in real time. Because the NBA has seen this story before, talent on paper that never clicks on the court, yet Washington chose a full reset in 2023, tearing everything down in a true deconstruction phase, moving on from veterans like Bradley Beal and Kristaps Porzingis, embracing massive losing seasons that culminated in 67 losses, and leaning fully into the draft, which finally delivered a new foundation in Alex Sarr, Bob Carrington, and Kaishawn George, giving the franchise something it hasn't had in years, not just potential, but a clear direction forward.
It over to Carrington, bounce past Sarr. Alex inside. Nice.
The biggest problem with Washington's rebuild was that, despite 3 straight years of losing, it still hadn't produced the one thing every championship team needs: a true franchise cornerstone. The 2024 draft brought in promising young talent like Alex Sarr, Bob Carrington, and Kaishawn George, but none looked like the kind of superstar who could instantly change a franchise's direction, so Washington stayed committed to the plan, continuing to convert veterans into future assets, moving players like Jonas Valanciunas, Malcolm Brogdon, Jordan Poole, and Marcus Smart while preserving cap flexibility and stacking draft capital, even after another 64-loss season, and watching prospects like Cooper Flagg, Dylan Harper, and Ace Bailey come off the board before their pick. They didn't panic, instead adding Trey Johnson and Will Riley to a growing young core, and by the summer of 2026 they had built one of the deepest pools of young talent in the league, yet still lacked a defining star every contender is built around, until, just before the draft lottery, they stunned the NBA by trading for Trae Young and Anthony Davis, a move that at first looked like a rebuilding team abandoning patience, but in reality signaled something more calculated. Washington buying low on proven stars without dismantling its foundation, pairing Young's elite playmaking with Davis's championship defense to accelerate a rebuild that was already positioned for its next stage, not its end. The only thing still missing was a franchise superstar. 4 years. The lottery refused to cooperate. 1 pick away from Victor Wembanyama in 2023, a weak draft class in 2024 where they settled for the second selection, and then another brutal drop in 2025 that pushed them to 6, just in time to watch Cooper Flagg come off the board. Every contender has asterisk, that asterisk player everything revolves around. Wembanyama in San Antonio, Jason Tatum in Boston, Stephen Curry in Golden State, Luka Doncic in Los Angeles, but Washington, despite building a strong young core, still didn't have its centerpiece. Heading into the 2026 lottery, nothing suggested that would change. especially with flattened odds making another slide just as likely as a breakthrough. But for the first time since the rebuild began, luck finally broke their way as the Wizards won the lottery and everything they had built suddenly snapped into focus. The earlier additions of Trae Young and Anthony Davis now look perfectly timed rather than premature. And with the first overall pick, they selected AJ Dybantsa, a 6'9", 7'2" wingspan superstar prospect from BYU who averaged 25.5 points per game and brought a complete offensive package, scoring at all three levels, creating his own shot, and finishing through contact, while stepping into a situation unlike most number one picks, because he didn't have to carry everything immediately. Trae Young could handle elite playmaking, Anthony Davis anchored the defense, and a deep young core featuring Alex Sarr, Bilal Coulibaly, Keyshawn George, Bob Carrington, Trey Johnson, and Will Riley gave Washington rare balance, upside, and flexibility, meaning the Wizards weren't suddenly guaranteed success, but for the first time in years they weren't just hoping for it. They were finally built to chase it.